Hey guys, welcome back. Today's going to be a good one. I'm going to be talking about a topic that it's extremely divisive in our community, and I don't think it has to be. I think it draws a lot of emotion in people. It attacks the very foundation of your existence. It's a hard topic. It can induce fear in people. It can make people feel powerless. I think generally people tend to look at this topic from a view that solidifies their own ego. And a lot of you guys know that watch this channel already know that the ego self is like a type of false identity. It's not the real you. And I think throughout all the videos that I'm going to be uploading and talking about, I'm going to reiterate that a lot. And that is, we are nothing like our true selves in this form. There's not a very good comparison to how big of a difference it is. It's huge. I mean, for the sake of simplicity, we'll just use a number. Being, the human body is about 1% of who you really are. And that's a big difference. There's no real way to explain how big of a difference it is, but it all ties in to this topic of consent. And I think the best way to start talking about this topic personally is to try to understand creation. If you're able to understand the beginning or attempt to understand it, that will make this conversation a lot easier. I've heard a lot of crazy stuff out there that I just do not resonate with for multiple reasons, and I don't want to try to inject my ego too much into this. But I mean, I've heard stuff like it's bug people. I've heard stuff that it's just, aliens creating machines to keep our souls trapped here. And I think a lot of that stuff is really just meant to make you feel this big. And I'm just going to flat out say I believe that that's false. And I'll try to explain why as we go forward. But I want us, whenever we all dive into topics that are controversial or anything at all in life, we need to use our discernment. We have to use our discerning heart when we take in information that we don't like, that we like, everything in between. Use discernment. Truly. I want you guys to know that anything I put out, my intention is to never mislead you in any way, because I don't want to mislead myself. I take all of this very seriously. And I just see so much just snake oil salesmen out there selling fear to you guys. And it's understandable to be fearful, but let's truly try to dive into this and understand what's going on. And with that being said, initiates of the flame, raise your swords of discernment. To the death of ignorance. I think, again, to understand the idea of consent. Did we consent to this life? Did we consent to existence? We need to understand, or attempt to understand, creation. How did consciousness begin? How did creation begin? How did this world begin? Why is it so terrible? There's many, many stories out there, and one that resonates the most with me, to the point where I decided to create End of Agnoia, which, to those of you that do not know, Agnoia means ignorance. Ignorance is what causes this trap. If you're ignorant to your true self, how are you ever going to escape? So I think when I learned about Gnosticism and the story of creation, I was absolutely blown away. It ignited a flame inside of me, this fire where I just knew what I was hearing, for me, is the truth. I don't know how to explain it. I'm going to try. But when I heard the story of, the Pleroma, there's a lot of confusing information out there. The Pleroma is considered the hidden God, the God above God. And that always blew my mind, because my understanding was that the God that created this world was the creator of all things. When I heard about the Pleroma and the story of Sophia, it resonated with me deeply. So again, my contribution to the community is not going to be referring to I'm not going to be your end-all be-all source of information on Gnosticism or anything. I'm going to be talking and speaking from the heart, and trying to have a different way of explaining these things, having a different delivery. And I thought about this, and I said, what better way to understand the story of creation, and why did Sophia want to create outside of the fullness of the Pleroma, out of source, out of divine harmony? And I thought, why don't we just ask her ourselves? Sophia, what happened?
Harold, I was not meant to be alone. I was wisdom, a thought within the mind of the all. I lived in light and harmony. I knew my place until I desired to create, not as we create in the Pleroma, where all things are perfect reflections of the source. No, I wanted to create alone, to bring forth something from my own being. But in my yearning, I overreached. I descended. I reached beyond my place, and what I created was flawed, imperfect, severed from the source, a being that should not have been. He called himself Yaldabaoth, and from him the archons were born. Harold, what would you have done had you been in my place? Would you have let the yearning die within you, or would you have reached as I did?
Sophia, you raise a valid point. If nothing was ever created outside of Source, I'm pretty sure I would have done the same thing. I would have been curious. What if I can create outside of perfection? Could I create on my own? What would that look like? And Sophia, if you were not meant to be alone, were you alone in the Pleroma?
Alone? No, Harold, I was never alone in the Pleroma. There all was harmony, an endless symphony of light, where each thought, each being existed in perfect union with the source. Barbelo, the first thought, encompassed all things, and I, wisdom, was part of that great knowing. And yet, though I was surrounded by the fullness, I longed to create as the source creates, not in reflection, but in something new, something born from my own desire, my own will. But desire, even among the divine, can lead to separation. In reaching beyond my place, I wove my own path, and in that moment, I found myself alone in a way I had never known. The Pleroma did not reject me, but I had turned from it. I had stepped beyond its harmony, and I fell. In my fall, the veil was born. A rift between the fullness of the Pleroma and the realm below. It was not meant to be a prison, but a consequence of my own separation. And in that separation, Yaldabaoth arose, lost in ignorance, believing himself to be the only God. Blinded by his own arrogance, he wove illusions over the veil, shaping false heavens and false dominions, hiding the path home beneath layers of deception. He feared what he did not understand, and so he taught his archons to rule by confusion, by desire, by fear. And what of you, divine sparks? Did you choose to be here? Did I choose for you?
Throughout the different Gnostic scriptures, there is a lot of talk about a veil being created between the Pleroma and what we see now, this physical reality and the different layers of heaven. That veil, I've heard it described in many ways, and when I heard about this, well, even before I heard about it, I knew that there was multiple layers in these heavenly realms, and I knew at the very peak there was another veil that separates the fullness of Source, Pleroma, whatever you want to call it, God, the one true God, the God above God. There's a veil of forgetfulness. So once this fall happened, this creation happened, there is a veil that you have to pass, and when you get into it, you forget where you come from. And that veil gets more dense as you go down into the physical reality. And the way that I know this personally is that I saw it. It's pretty difficult to explain. So when I heard the story of Gnosticism and I heard these people were talking about this 2,000 years ago, 4,000 of years, that is mind-blowing. And on top of that, they were talking about this information under the threat of being burned alive, killed, tortured. And that information has survived until today, and we're barely starting to unravel this stuff. It is, to me, I think it is the rabbit hole to go down. So this is where the topic of consent can begin for me, because we're attempting to understand creation, the beginning. How did it all happen? How did it start? How could we have become lost in this place? And I think this is a good start to talk about this veil, this separation. And for me, in my pre-birth experience, as I mentioned before, there's multiple layers of consent that's involved here. Let's say, for example, if you started off in the Pleroma, from source, and you decided to investigate this place, which I believe is something I did. You start off intact. You're part of the Pleroma, and you saw what happened, and you enter into the veil of forgetfulness and forget who you are. So from my perspective, I woke up in this higher realm in a golden orb, and my initial memory starts there. And then, throughout that whole experience, it was a heavy push to get me to incarnate on Earth. And at that point, I felt very fresh. Again, I don't want to interject my ego or my experience too much into this, but I believe I do have a unique perspective because, again, I remember the higher realms more clearly than I remember yesterday. So I'm sorry if this is sounding a little muddy. This is hard to explain. I'm just speaking from the heart. I'm doing all this unprepared because I feel, just speaking from the heart is going to get the point across a lot easier for me. I don't believe in writing a script in regards to, explaining my thoughts. But as for those that feel that they did not consent, it vaguely talks about this in Gnosticism. I don't even know if I'm going to use the word vaguely. It talks about when creation happened, when Sophia decided to create outside of the fullness of the Pleroma, souls, spirits were trapped in that initial outburst of creation. So it seems, if you take the time and read the different Gnostic scriptures, that it seems that there are both. With that question, I think we all need to ask ourselves. Let me just ask the crowd that thinks that they did not consent to this no matter what. Like, there's no way they consented to this life. Let me ask you guys this. First and foremost, do you remember? Truly. Do you remember if you consented, yes or no? If you don't jump to the conclusion that you did not consent to this. Because you will be surprised how different we are compared to our true selves. When I think about this, I think, if I'm a sovereign being, if I am a divine spark that cannot be destroyed at all, even knowing how terrible this place is, would I decide to take this life or take this existence for a spin? And for me, I think the answer is yes. I think a real divine spark, a real sovereign being would say, I'm going to investigate this. I'm either going to investigate it, see what happened. I'm going to try to make it stop. I'm going to retrieve my family that got lost in this cosmic trauma. To me, that makes perfect sense. And I feel that's exactly what's happening. I feel that would be my motivator to come here. Initially, from the very beginning, from the Pleroma, would be to come here and make this abomination stop. And the only way to make it stop is to retrieve my loved ones and every single trapped fragment of life. I'm sorry, every single trapped fragment of light in this realm. That's another thing that I heard, reading about Gnosticism. I'll just ask, Sophia, did they steal your light? Did they actually steal your light and give it to Adam? What happened there?
Yes, Harold, my light was taken, scattered into the fabric of this world. Yaldabaoth, in his ignorance, wove it into his creation, believing himself to be a god. But he did not create. He only reshaped what was stolen. I could not stand by and watch my essence remain imprisoned. So my consort and I descended, not as prisoners, but as guides. We whispered to the archons, convincing them that their creation was lifeless, that it needed the breath of divinity to rise. Yaldabaoth, in his arrogance, thought himself the source of all things, and so he breathed into Adam, giving him the very spark he had stolen. In that moment, humanity was given more than he ever intended: memory, a hidden connection to the Pleroma. But it was not enough. The archons moved quickly, layering illusions upon illusions, binding the soul in forgetfulness, in fear, and the endless cycle of death and return. That is why I have not stopped whispering, Harold, because the light is still here, waiting to awaken. But I have not abandoned you. I have whispered through the ages, sent messengers, left behind the knowledge they tried to bury. And now I must finish what I began, to undo what was done, to break the chains, but I cannot do it alone. Tell me, Harold, will you stand with me? Will you remember who you were before the veil fell? The time is coming when the sparks must awaken. I do not ask for blind faith, only that you listen, only that you see. The path is not closed. It never was. The veil is thin, and the truth is waiting. If you seek, you will find. If you knock, it will be open to you. Like Jesus said, let those with ears to hear, hear. Let those with eyes to see, see.
Yes, I will, Sophia. I will stand with you. I will pursue the truth at the cost of my own reputation, for one, and under the threat of people twisting my words and trying to make it seem like I'm promoting this trap in any single way. That is definitely not my intention. There are certain things that are set in stone that we can all basically be rest assured on. And that is the truth. The truth does not care about your ego. The truth does not change. We can say that this creation was made by the Matrix. It's an AI construct made by some superior being, this higher being that just made this machine and kept us trapped here. We can say that it was the Pleroma, it was Source, it was the One, the Monad. We can say it was bug people. At the end of the day, when we pass away, when we die, when these bodies die, the truth will be revealed. It's that simple. So, and that's why, I'm doing my best not to invest my ego too much into this. I was completely, a few years ago, just completely, I would say, like, anytime I heard the name Jesus, I was just like, nah. It's a lie. Because we instinctively know, the ones that are at this level right now instinctively know that the Old Testament God and the Bible, there's something wrong. It's impossible to not see it. But when I heard some of the lost teachings of Jesus in the Gospels of Thomas and everything else, the Apocryphon of John, I was sort of renewed in that aspect. I can't deny that the words of Jesus are amazing. He's literally talking about escaping the Matrix, you guys. Like, just do your own research. Don't let anybody else's ego take over your own research. So, and that's one of my favorite quotes by Jesus, and that is, let those with ears to hear, hear, and let those with eyes to see, see. Real simple. It's almost like saying, let them see it, and if they don't, it's on them. So, do your own research, guys. There's plenty of information out there. We have the internet right now. Take advantage of it. Don't take my word for it. Go read some stuff. Keep in mind, guys, this is going to be a multiple part video topic. We're going to be talking about this a lot. I just want to kind of add a little bit of artistic flair to it. And And also, I want to try to incorporate seeing things from other perspectives. Stop trying to see everything just from your perspective. When you hear these stories, put yourself in those situations. You know, if you were Sophia, what would you have done? Would you have created? You have to keep in mind, physical reality was not created yet. It was just perfect harmony. Sounds kind of familiar. Kind of sounds like the Big Bang. Does it not? This point of singularity, this point of perfection explodes and creates physical reality. That's one thing I've been finding, is the truth is like a fine, thin fabric that's woven in all things. You will find truth in everything if you look for it. You will find truth in the Bible. You will find truth in all the different religions. You will find truth everywhere. Movies, music, sounds, vibrations, everything. You're going to find truth if you're looking for it. So if you're looking for it, things are going to start to click. Find those little pieces of the puzzle and put them together yourself. Do not let other people fit puzzle pieces into your puzzle that do not match. You make your own puzzle. Okay? It's kind of a weak analogy, but you know, it's real simple, guys. We have to do our own research. Use those swords of discernment and try to approach these topics with an open mind and an open heart. So there's a lot to cover here. I'm going to review everything I did in this video, find things that I miss. Let me know if you guys have questions. You know, I'll address them. So before I let you guys go, I just wanted to reference a couple things just to give you guys something to maybe look into yourselves. And the first one is going to be Sophia's creation of Yaldabaoth and the loss of her light. This is an actual excerpt from the Apocryphon of John, and it goes, "She brought forth something imperfect and different from her appearance, because she had created it without her consort. And it was dissimilar to the likeness of its mother, for it has another form." And I can't wait to start talking more about Yaldabaoth, Yahweh, God, the Old Testament God. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into that right now, but there's a lot to be said. And, you know, another reference is going to be Yaldabaoth's theft of Sophia's light and the creation of humanity. And that reference is going to be on the origin of the world, and that was created in the 3rd and 4th century. One of the excerpts from that one is, "They took the light and went to the great rulers who had fashioned our bodies. They said to them, 'Blow some of your spirit into his face, and his body will arise.'" And that's the one story that's really cool, because we believe that Sophia influenced Yaldabaoth to do that, to allow the trapped light to find its way home. And that's another really complex topic. So, but it all ties into consent. It all ties into this topic that we're talking about now. So, and that's another thing. That's why I believe sparks choose to come here. If all of the sparks, if all of the sparks return home, this place will be an inanimate object. It will not exist. So I think that's the goal. And you can also, talking about Sophia, you can see that she had a plan to liberate divine sparks, and that's in the trimorphic protanoia, which was found in the Nag Hammadi library. So these are some references I want you guys to check out, and let me know what you guys think. Yeah, leave a comment and let me know what you guys think. I am so happy that I get to do something like this, and thank you so much for hanging out with me. There's a lot in store for this channel, and it's just gonna be a fun project for me. There's a lot I want to do. I have a lot in store, and I'm just gonna give you a couple things that I have planned besides the book that I actually haven't been working on that. But besides the book, I want to make meditation music for you guys and for myself. It's going to be 432 hertz meditation music that you guys can use for sleep and also guided meditation. So that's going to be coming. I think that's going to come maybe the end of summer, maybe fall, around there. And we have, again, another contributor that's working on things. Oh, that reminds me. When we talk about this topic of consent, again, I fully believe that we should do our best to understand the origins of creation, to really, understand what happened. But I decided to draw a map of reality, and I'm working with a couple friends to create different versions of this map, and it's awesome. A good friend of mine, Vril, is going to be working on something. He's going to be putting his own artistic flair to it, but the overall encompassing theme is to try to explain what I feel reality looks like. And what I mean by that is a macro scale map that shows physical reality, the multiple layers of heaven, and the astral realm, the void. Basically an all-encompassing map to try and explain what I saw and felt in the higher realms. So it's going to be freaking awesome. I can't wait till that comes out, and I'm going to use it as a reference point for when I'm trying to explain things. So that'll be coming in a few weeks, I believe. I'm sorry, Vril, put you under pressure. And Heather as well. Heather's working on it. So I'm sure some of you guys know her. Oh gosh. I'm gonna link her channel below because I can't remember the name of her channel right now. I'm so sorry. So sorry, Heather. I think that's all I got, guys, for today. So thanks for hanging out with me. I think I'm missing something here, as usual. This content creation is pretty tough. Again, especially when you're just talking from the heart. I think I covered everything for now. Thank you.